everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about tips and tricks for Eldrazi Ramp in Modern.
Well, the Eldrazi finally came. Yeah, this basement's not gonna protect me. I don't know why I came down here. Let me...
So these are things that you should probably know whether you're playing or playing against Eldrazi Ramp in Modern. And we're going to start right off with Kozilek's Command is two things for Emrakul. Kozilek's Command is a kindred instant, which means it counts as a kindred spell and counts as an instant spell, both in and of itself for Emrakul. So when you're counting the amount of different types of things in your graveyard for casting Emrakul the Promised End, remember Kozilek's Command is both. So again, obviously we're starting with really simple ones and obvious ones, which brings us to the next thing about Kozilek's Command is that it can replace itself with the mana when you cast it. So if you have like a ton of mana and you top deck Kozilek's Command and you're digging for something relevant, you can just tap all of your mana for Kozilek's Command to scry 1,000,000, make 1,000,000 Scions, and like look for that card and then be able to, in the same turn, sacrifice those Scions and play the relevant card that you scried to the top. In a similar vein, it can kind of get us out of mana deficits by at the end of our opponent's turn doing the same thing, just making a bunch of Scions, 4 or 5 Scions, whatever, scrying a whole bunch or killing something, untapping, and then we have profited as many mana as Scions that we made, and we can play our big dumb idiots in that way. It's also important to remember that Sowing Micah Spawn can toolbox lands, allowing us to grab cards like Cavern of Souls or Bazooka Bog, or even lands that just ramp us like Ugin's Labyrinth or Eldrazi Temple. We can toolbox those from our deck, and that is very strong. And Devourer of Destiny, while it smooths out your draws, it's really relevant that if your first land is a fetch land and you use that fetch land, you lose the card that you put on top. When I first picked up this deck, I totally made that mistake multiple times, having like Fetchland, Utopia Sprawl, Devourer, Reveal Devourer, smooth out my draw, and then go, cool, ramp with Utopia Sprawl, and then like untap and draw, and it's like, why didn't I draw the card I put in the top? Oh, I'm dumb. And so you have to be really careful about that, especially if you're on the play. Also, relevantly with Devourer, if you don't want any of the cards, you can just exile all 4. You don't have to put a card back on top. Also, relevantly with Devourer, you can just exile all 4 cards you look at. You don't have to put a card back on top. Writhing Chrysalis is an incredibly powerful card that's very good at blocking, but also, it's really good at attacking, especially if you pair it with Kozilek's Command. If you make a ton of Scions with Kozilek's Command, like we were talking about earlier in this video, and then sacrifice those Scions, you can turn Writhing Chrysalis into an absolutely massive creature that can end the game on its own after like blocking in the early game for you. So it's able to kind of play both ends of the stick here. Speaking of Devourer and Utopia Sprawl as well, if you cast Devourer of Destiny against a deck that doesn't have any colorless permanence and you have a Utopia Sprawl, you are forced to exile your own Utopia Sprawl. It's normally worth it, you know, pegging a 6/6 on the battlefield into an empty board is nice, but that's pretty relevant to know. And then if you're playing this deck, you might want to practice taking opponents' turns for like every deck with Emrakul, because when you cast your Emrakul, it should end the game. And make sure you do a lot of different things, like making sure you attack your opponent's creatures into your creatures so you can effectively just kill them really easily. Make sure if your opponent has a Goblin Bombardment, sacking your opponent's board, dealing damage to you. If they have Pain lands, you can just tap those mana, have it deal damage to them. Play cards for no value, like play a card, hold priority, counter that card. You know how to deal a ton of damage and extract as many resources from your opponent as possible when you're playing Emrakul the Promised End. That is so important. But those are some cool tips and tricks I have for you for Eldrazi Ramp in Modern. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.